Welcome to AudioCert, where the official study guides are brought to life. And welcome back to the Dip Dive. Today we're plunging into, well, a really critical area for anyone navigating the modern digital landscape. We're talking EC Council Certified Ethical Hacker, CEHv13, Module 16, hacking wireless networks. This isn't just, about understanding your home Wi-Fi. It's about seeing those invisible pathways our data travels every single day. And, maybe more importantly, the surprising vulnerabilities that might be lurking there. So our mission today, extract the key nuggets, explain the complex stuff so it just clicks, and maybe uncover some surprising facts. All for you, our listener.
You've really hit the nail on the head there. Wireless networks, they're absolutely everywhere now, aren't they? I mean, smart homes, coffee shops, offices, the phones in our pockets. Wi-Fi is just ubiquitous. But that convenience, that ease of use, it often comes with a pretty significant security cost. Most people use Wi-Fi daily, right? But without really grasping the tech underneath or, crucially, its weaknesses. Understanding both the technology and where it can fail is vital. Not just for ethical hackers, but really for anyone who uses Wi-Fi. It's like knowing the locks on your digital doors. Are they sturdy or are they easy to pick?
That's a great way to put it, knowing the locks. Okay, so buckle up, everyone. We're going to cover a lot today, starting with the basics, the fundamental concepts of wireless, then diving into the world of encryption, WEP, WPA, WPA2, WPA3, all the acronyms. We'll look at the threats out there, how attackers actually do this stuff, their methods, and of course the countermeasures, how we can protect ourselves. We'll try to cut through the jargon, use some real-world analogies to make it all stick. Sound good?
Sounds perfect. Let's get started.
Okay, let's unpack this right from the beginning. Wireless networking. It's completely changed how we connect, hasn't it? I definitely remember the days before Wi-Fi, just a tangle of Ethernet cables everywhere. So what was the fundamental shift, going from wired to wireless? Why was it so appealing? What are the core ideas?
Right. The fundamental shift is really about unbounding our data. That's the key. Instead of physical cables, we started using radio frequency technology, RF. And electromagnetic waves, EM waves, basically cutting the cords.
Right.
And that immediately brings huge benefits. Portability, mobility, accessibility. You're not tied to a desk anymore. You can work from anywhere, move around an office, connect your fan on the train. This unbounded nature, it drove adoption like crazy, but it also creates unique challenges.
Because the signal is just out there.
In the air, exactly. Because those signals travel through the air, they can be intercepted. It's like moving from a private conversation through, say, a pipe to shouting your conversation in a crowded public square. Anyone nearby might overhear.
Okay, that makes sense. Convenience, but with an inherent risk. #tag wireless terminology, demystifying the jargon. All right, before we get too deep into the hacking and defending side, we probably need a common language. Wireless networking has its own set of terms, its own lexicon. What are some of the key ones we'll bump into? Let's maybe start with the basics.
Absolutely. Talking about something invisible needs clear definitions. Let's break down some of the essentials. We'll try to use simple analogies. First up, bandwidth. You hear this one a lot. It's basically the amount of information that can be sent over a connection, measured in bits per second, BPS. Think of it like a highway. More lanes means more cars, right? Wider bandwidth means more data can flow at once.
Okay, bandwidth is the highway width. Got it. What's next?
Access point, or AP. This is the hub. It connects your wireless devices, like your laptop or phone, to the main network, usually the wired one. It's like a digital bridge. Or maybe a translator between the wireless world and the wired internet. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi both use APs in different ways.
The bridge. Makes sense.
Then there's the Service Set Identifier, the SSID. This is simply the network's public name. You scan for Wi-Fi, you see names like home network or coffee shop Wi-Fi. That's the SSID.
Right, the name you click on.
Exactly. You need to match that name to connect. But, and this is important, later, the SSID itself doesn't provide any real security. It's often just broadcast out there in plain text.
Ah, okay, so it's just a label, not a lock.
Precisely. Now, related to that is the Basic Service Set Identifier, or BSSID. If the SSID is the public name, the BSID is like the AP's unique serial number, or its physical address. It's actually the MAC address of the access point.
Okay, SSID is the name. BSSID is the specific device address.
You got it. Now, things get a bit more technical with how the data is actually sent. Orthogonal frequency division, multiplexing, OFDM. Big mouthful, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But the concept is pretty clever. Instead of sending all the data down one big channel, OFDM splits the signal into many smaller parallel subchannels. Think of it like replacing one wide road with lots of narrow parallel lanes. Each carries a part of the message, and they don't interfere with each other. It's much more efficient.
Okay, so splitting the signal for efficiency, OFDM.
And building on that, we have multiple input, multiple output OFDM, or MIMO OFDM. This adds more antennas to both the sending and receiving devices. So back to our road analogy, it's like adding more on-ramps and off-ramps to those parallel lanes. You can send and receive different data streams simultaneously, way faster, more robust, especially good for things like 4G and 5G.
More antennas, more data streams. Got it.
Then there are a couple of ways to spread the signal, making it harder to intercept. Direct sequence spread spectrum, DSSS. This mixes the data signal with a sort of pseudo-random noise code. It's like whispering your message across a really wide frequency range. Harder to pick out of the background noise, harder to jam.
Okay, spreading it wide to hide it, DSS.
And the other is frequency hopping spread spectrum, FHSS. This one rapidly switches the transmission frequency, hopping between many different channels based on a sequence only the sender and receiver know. Imagine you're having a secret conversation, but you keep changing the radio station every second according to a pre-agreed plan. Very tough for eavesdroppers to follow.
Jumping frequencies like a secret code. FHSS. Wow, okay. That paints a much clearer picture of the basic language and tech involved. Hashtag tech, text types of wireless networks, the different flavors of connectivity. So it's clear there's more to wireless than just, the Wi-Fi we use at home or work. It seems like these networks can be structured and deployed in different ways depending on the need. What are these main types and where do we usually see them?
Yeah, that's a good point. Wi-Fi isn't monolithic. It gets implemented differently. There are about 4 main types you'll run into. First, the most common one, an extension to a wired network. This is your typical home setup. You have a router connected to your internet line, and it has a built-in access point that lets your wireless devices connect to that wired network. Simple as that.
Right, like my router at home.
Exactly. Then you have setups with multiple access points. Think large offices, university campuses, hotels. They need coverage over a big area, and they want users to be able to move around or roam without losing their connection. So they install many APs all connected to the same network, and your device just seamlessly switches to the strongest signal as you move.
Ah, that seamless roaming in big buildings.
Third, there's a LAN-to-LAN wireless network. This is less common for individuals, more for businesses. It's used to connect 2 separate wired networks wirelessly, maybe linking 2 buildings across the street without digging up the road to lay cable. They use directional antennas usually.
Like a wireless bridge between networks?
Precisely. And finally, the 3G, 4G, 5G hotspot. Many people use this all the time. Your smartphone uses its cellular data connection, but acts as a mini access point, creating a personal Wi-Fi network for your laptop or tablet. Super handy when you're out and about.
Yeah, I use my phone hotspot all the time. Okay, so different structures for different needs. Hashtag tag advantages and disadvantages, the double-edged sword. So wireless sounds amazing, flexible, convenient, no cables, like magic. But like you said, there are always trade-offs. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? What are the big pros and cons, especially the ones that ethical hackers and really all of us need to keep in mind for security?
You nailed it. It's definitely a double-edged sword. The advantages are obvious, but the disadvantages are exactly why we're having this conversation. On the plus side, it's generally easy and fast to install. No drilling holes for cables everywhere, mobility is huge, users aren't tethered, great for hard-to-cable areas. Think historical buildings or temporary setups, and widespread public access is a big plus for convenience.
Okay, the convenience factor is undeniable.
But the downsides are significant, particularly from a security perspective. Security concerns. This is the big one. That unbounded signal makes it inherently easier to intercept than a physical cable. If not secured properly, it's like leaving your front door wide open. This is our main focus today, obviously.
Right, the core issue.
Bandwidth limitations. While speeds have increased massively, adding more and more devices to a single AP can still slow things down for everyone. It's a shared medium. And interference. Microwaves, Bluetooth devices, cordless phones, even neighboring Wi-Fi networks can interfere with your signal, causing drops or slowdowns.
Okay, so convenience versus security and potential performance issues. That makes perfect sense. And that leads us right into the rules that govern these airwaves, the standards, and how they've tried to tackle some of these challenges. All right, so the backbone of almost all the Wi-Fi we use today is the IEEE 802.11 standard. But it wasn't just, created overnight, fully formed. It's evolved quite a bit, hasn't it? How did it change from the early days, and why do these different letters, these amendments, matter so much?
That's right. It's a family tree, really. The original 802.101 standard came out way back in 1997. It was pretty basic, just a wireless extension to wired LANs. Since then, each new amendment, usually denoted by a letter like B, G, N, ACI, AX, has brought significant improvements. More speed, better range, new features, and crucially, better security mechanisms. Let's run through the main ones quickly. It helps understand the context. 802.11, original, the grandparent. 2.4 gigahertz band, speeds of only 1 to 2 Mbps, barely usable by today's standards.
Wow, 1 and 2 Mbps. Hard to imagine now.
Right. Then came 802.1 MB and 802.1 MB around the same time, late 90s, late 2000s. 802.1 MB was the one that really took off initially. Still 2.4 gigahertz, but up to 11 Mbps. Much better. 802.1 MB was technically faster, up to 54 Mbps, but it used the 5 gigahertz band, which didn't penetrate walls as well and was less common back then.
So B was more popular even though A was faster.
Yeah, compatibility and cost played a big role. Then came 802.11 MG. 802.1 MG was a great compromise. It ran on the popular 2.4 gigahertz band, but brought speeds up to 54 Mbps, like A. It is backward compatible with B devices. Big success.
Okay, G was the sweet spot for a while.
Definitely. Then the next major leap was 802.01n, which we now often call Wi-Fi 4. 802.101n Wi-Fi 4. This was huge. It could use both 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz bands. It introduced MIMO, those multiple antennas we talk about, boosting theoretical speeds way up, like 600 Mbps, and improving range. This really made wireless viable for demanding stuff like video streaming.
Wi-Fi 4. That's when things really got fast at home.
Exactly. Then 802.1 NAC, or Wi-Fi 5. 802.1 NAC, Wi-Fi 5. Mostly focused on the cleaner 5 gigahertz band. Pushed speeds into the gigabit range, faster, more reliable, less interference in many cases.
Wi-Fi 5. I think my current router is AC.
Very likely. And the latest widely deployed standard is 802.1max, or Wi-Fi 6. 802.1nmax, Wi-Fi 6. Operates in both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. Theoretical speeds up to nearly 10 Gbps. But the real magic is efficiency, especially in crowded areas. It uses tech like OFDMA. Think of it as dividing the highway lanes not just between cars, but within cars, packing data much more efficiently. Great for lots of devices connecting at once.
Wi-Fi 6 for crowded environments. That sounds useful.
Very. And looking ahead, we have 802.11b, or Wi-Fi 7, starting to emerge. 802.11b, Wi-Fi 7. This aims for truly insane speeds, maybe up to 30 Gbps, using 2.4, 5, and the new 6 gigahertz bands. A key feature is multi-link operation, MLO, letting devices use multiple bands simultaneously. Think of it as the hyperloop of Wi-Fi incredible speed, super low latency, aimed at things like high-end VR, AR, and the next generation of IoT.
Wi-Fi 7, Hyperloop. Wow, okay, the speed race is definitely ongoing. Are there other 802.111 standards worth mentioning quickly?
Yeah, a few others pop up. 802.11i is critical. That's the standard that defined WPA2 security. 802.101e added quality of service QoS features, and there are specialized ones like 802.11 Wi-Fi Halo for long-range, low-power IoT in the 900 MHz band.
Okay, so 802.101 is the Wi-Fi family. But it's not the only game in town for wireless, right? What other standards are out there connecting our devices?
Definitely not just Wi-Fi. The IE802 group covers other areas too. 802.15 is the family for wireless personal area networks, or WPANs, short-range stuff. The most famous one here is 802.15.1, which is Bluetooth. We all use it for headphones, speakers, keyboards, short-distance data exchange.
Ah, Bluetooth is 802.15.1. Didn't know the number.
Yep. Then there's 802.15.4, which underpins standards like Zigbee. Zigbee uses various low-frequency bands, offers low data rates, but crucially has very long battery life. Perfect for sensor networks, smart home devices, lots of IoT applications where devices just need to send small bits of data occasionally and run for years on a battery.
Zigbee for low-power IoT. Makes sense.
And one more major category is 802.16, which defines WiMAX. WiMAX stands for Wireless Metropolitan Area Networks, MANs. It was designed for broadband wireless access over much longer distances than Wi-Fi, like several miles. Think wireless internet for a whole town or area. It competed with cellular technologies for a while.
WiMAX for citywide wireless. Okay, so Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, WiMAX. Different tools for different wireless jobs. Hashtag tax service set identifier, SSID. Revisited more than just a name. Let's circle back to the SSID for a second. We established it's the network name, the label you connect to, but you mentioned it doesn't provide real security. Can we elaborate on that? Why isn't hiding your SSID, for example, a good security measure?
Right. It's a common misconception. The SSID is that unique up to 32-character name for the network. It's in the packet headers. It's how your device knows which network to join. But here are the security pitfalls. No real security. Like we said, it offers no actual encryption or authentication. It's transmitted in plain text, in beacon frames and probe responses. Anyone sniffing the air can see it. Hiding is ineffective. Some people disable the SSID broadcast thinking security through obscurity. But this is easily defeated. An attacker can just sniff the probe responses from clients trying to connect to the hidden network or use tools to force clouds to reveal the SSID. It adds minimal, if any, real security and can cause connection issues for legitimate users.
So hiding it just makes it slightly harder to find but doesn't actually secure it.
Exactly. And worse, default SIDs. Routers often ship with default SSIDs like Linksys, Netgear, TP-Link XXXX. These are well known. If the user hasn't also changed the default password, the network is incredibly vulnerable to simple guessing or dictionary attacks. An attacker sees Linksys, tries the default admin password, and they might be in.
Ah, okay. So change your default SSID and your default password. Crucial first steps.
Absolutely fundamental. Relying on the SSID for anything beyond identification is a mistake. Real security comes from proper authentication and encryption.
Which brings us perfectly to how do we actually get in? How does authentication work? And how do we protect the data with encryption?
Right, so you found the network using its SSID. Now, how do you actually prove you're allowed to connect? How do you authenticate? It's clearly not always just typing in that single password like at home, especially for bigger networks, right?
Right.
What are the main ways networks check your ID, so to speak? Correct. There are fundamentally two main approaches to Wi-Fi authentication, catering to different needs and security levels. The first is pre-shared key mode, usually called WPA PSK or WPA2 PSK, sometimes WPA3 personal now. This is the one most people know from home or small offices. There's a single shared password or passphrase that everyone uses to connect. Think of it like a secret club handshake. Everyone in the club knows it.
Simple, easy to manage for a small group.
Exactly. Its simplicity is its appeal. But its security hinges entirely on that one shared secret. If the password is weak, password 123, or gets leaked, the whole network is compromised.
Okay, so PSK relies heavily on a strong secret password. What's the alternative?
The alternative is much more robust, designed for larger organizations. Centralized authentication mode. This typically uses protocols like 802.1x and a backend server called Radius, Remote Authentication Dialing User Service. You'll see this implemented as WPA Enterprise, WPA2 Enterprise, or WPA3 Enterprise. Instead of one shared password, each user gets their own unique credentials. This could be a username and password, or sometimes a digital certificate installed on their device. Think of it like entering a secure building. There isn't one master key. Everyone has their own individual key card, and a central security system, the Radius server, verifies each card and logs who comes and goes.
Ah, individual credentials. Much more secure and manageable for lots of users.
Definitely. You can easily grant or revoke access for individuals without changing the password for everyone else. It provides much better accountability and security overall. Ideal for corporate environments, universities, places needing tighter control. Hashtag types of wireless antennas sculpting the signal.
Okay, authentication handles who gets in. But the signal itself, carrying all that data, is broadcast and received by antennas. Do different antennas shape that signal differently, like focus it or spread it out? And why would an attacker or even a defender care about specific antenna types?
Antennas are absolutely critical. They're the interface between the electrical signals in the device and the radio waves in the air. And yes, different designs shape those radio waves in very specific ways. This matters hugely for both coverage and security. Let's look at a few common types. Omnidirectional antenna. This is probably the most common type you see on routers. It radiates signal pretty evenly in all directions horizontally, like a donut shape. Think of a standard light bulb illuminating a room, good for covering a general area around the AP.
Okay, the standard router antenna spreads it all around.
Directional antenna. As the name suggests, this focuses the signal in a specific direction, like a spotlight or laser beam. It sends and receives more strongly in that direction and less so in others.
Why use that?
Well, for point-to-point links, like connecting those two buildings we talked about earlier, or from an attacker's perspective, to pick up a faint signal from far away, or to target a specific location without broadcasting their presence widely. Higher gain in one direction.
Ah, okay. Focusing the beam for distance or targeting?
Parabolic grid antenna. This is a type of high-gain directional antenna. Think of a satellite dish, but often a grid to save weight. It provides a very narrow, focused beam capable of transmitting and receiving over very long distances, sometimes miles. An attacker might use this from a distance to get a strong enough signal to analyze or attack a network.
Like a sniper rifle for Wi-Fi signals?
Kind of, yeah. And there's the Yagi antenna or Yagi-Uda. Yagi antenna, you've probably seen these for old TV reception. It's also unidirectional, offering high gain in one direction. Good for pulling in weaker signals.
So the antenna isn't just passive, it actively shapes where the signal goes and how well it's received. An attacker chooses the right antenna, like a burglar chooses the right lockpick.
Exactly. Understanding antenna types is key for both maximizing legitimate coverage and understanding potential attack vectors from afar. Hashtag tag tag wireless encryption, the evolving shield.
Okay, authentication verifies the user, antennas shape the signal. Now for the real shield, encryption. This is how we actually scramble the data as it flies through the air, protecting it from eavesdroppers. But this has been a moving target, hasn't it? The encryption standards have changed a lot over the years.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a constant evolution, a real arms race. Attackers find a weakness, defenders build a stronger wall, attackers find a new way through. We've gone through several major generations of wireless encryption standards, WEP, then WPA, then WPA2, and now WPA3 is the current standard. Each was designed to fix the security flaws of the one before it. Hashtag wired equivalent privacy, the first attempt and its failures.
Let's start at the beginning. WEP wired equivalent privacy. That name sounds secure, but we know now it's basically useless, easily broken. What exactly was it, and why did it fail so badly?
Yeah, the name was optimistic. WEP was the original encryption standard, part of the first 802.1 standard back in '97. The goal was ambitious: make wireless as secure as a wired connection. It used the RC4 stream cipher for encryption. The core idea relied on a shared secret key, known by the AP and all clients.
Okay, shared key, RC4 encryption. Sounds reasonable so far. What went wrong?
Several things. Fundamentally, it was designed largely in secret without broad public review from cryptographers, which is usually a red flag. But the killer flaw was the initialization vector, or fear.
FIFI, yes.
To avoid encrypting identical plaintext blocks the same way, WEP combined the secret key with a 24-bit IV for each packet. The problem: 24 bits is tiny. In a busy network, you'd run through all possible IVs, about 16.7 million, relatively quickly, maybe hours or even minutes. This meant IVs were reused frequently, sent in plaintext. The 5e itself was sent unencrypted in the packet header. Static keys. WEP had no built-in way to manage or automatically change the shared keys, so people set them once, often simple ones, and never changed them.
So small fee, sent in the clear, reused constantly with a static key, recipe for disaster.
Exactly. This reuse of the same key material, key plus 4, made RC4, which can be vulnerable if key material is reused, incredibly weak. Attackers quickly figured out statistical attacks. The famous Florer-Mantin-Shamir FMS attack exploited weak 4Vs to recover the WEP key itself, often in minutes, just by passively collecting enough traffic. WEP also had poor integrity protection, using CRC32, which is not cryptographically secure, making it possible for attackers to modify packets in transit.
Wow. So WEP wasn't just flawed, it was fundamentally broken from a cryptographic standpoint.
Totally broken. It offers no real security today. If you see a network still using WEP, run away. Or, well, don't connect anything sensitive to it. Hashtag wire protected access, WPA, a stopgap solution.
Okay, WEP was a disaster. Clearly something better was needed fast. WPA Wi-Fi protected access came next. How did it try to fix WEP's mess? Was it just a patch?
WPA was essentially a firmware upgradable patch, designed as an interim solution while the more robust 802.11i standard, which would become WPA2, was being finalized. The Wi-Fi Alliance needed something now to fix WP. WPA's main improvements focused on fixing WP's biggest flaws. Temporal Key Integrity Protocol, TKP. This was the core enhancement. It still used the RC4 cipher for backward compatibility with hardware, but wrapped it in much stronger protections. Larger 48-bit, and per packet keys. TKP dramatically increased the IV size to 48 bits, making collisions much rarer. Crucially, it mixed the base key with the IV and the sender's and mask address to generate a unique 128-bit encryption key for every single packet. No more static key reuse.
Per packet keys. That sounds much better.
Huge improvement. TKP also included a message integrity check, MIC, using an algorithm called Michael. This was much stronger than WP's CRC32 and designed to prevent attackers from tampering with packets or forging them. It also added sequence counters to thwart replay attacks.
So bigger 5e, per packet keys, better integrity check. WPA sounds like a solid fix. Any lingering issues?
It was a massive improvement, yes, but still a stopgap. Still used RC4. Because it needed to run on older WP hardware, it was stuck with the RC4 cipher, which cryptographers knew had inherent weaknesses, even if TKC mitigated many of them. PSK vulnerability. In its personal mode, WPA, PSK, it still relied on a pre-shared key. If users chose weak passphrases, it was still vulnerable to offline dictionary attacks targeting the handshake process, similar to what we'll discuss for WPA2. TKIP weaknesses found later. Over time, some specific, though complex, attacks against TKB itself were discovered, allowing for things like packet spoofing or limited decryption in certain scenarios.
Okay, so WPA plugged the biggest holes but wasn't the final answer because of RC4 and the PSK issue. It bought time for the real fix. Hashtag WPA2, the stronger standard for a while. Which brings us to WPA2. This became the standard we all use for, what, over a decade? What made WPA2 so much more robust and widely adopted? This was the one based on that 802.11i standard, right?
Yes, exactly. WPA2 is the implementation of the full IE 802.11i security standard. It arrived around 2004 and became mandatory for Wi-Fi certified devices in 2006. The biggest change, the core strength of WPA2, was ditching RC4 TKB altogether. WPA2 mandated the use of AES, Advanced Encryption Standard.
AES, I've heard of that. That's a strong modern encryption algorithm, right?
Very strong. AES is a block cipher, widely trusted, used by governments and industries worldwide. WPA2 paired AES with CCMP, Counter Mode Cipher Blockchaining Message Authentication Code Protocol. CCMP provides both strong encryption, using AES, and robust data integrity and authentication, significantly better than TKB, Michael.
So AES encryption plus CCMP for integrity. That sounds solid.
It was, and largely still is, very solid. Like WPA, WPA2 operates in two modes. WPA2 Personal, PSK, still uses a pre-shared key, but that key is used to derive the strong AES encryption keys. Security still depends on a strong passphrase, analogy, a very strong combination lock for your home Wi-Fi. WPA2 Enterprise 802.1x uses the radio server for individual authentication, just like WPA Enterprise, but now combined with the power of AES CCMP encryption. Analogy, individual high-security key cards managed centrally.
Okay, so WPA2 seemed like the gold standard for a long time, but nothing's perfect, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned KRAC earlier.
Right. Despite the strength of AES CCMP itself, WPA2 wasn't invulnerable. Weak PSKs. The personal mode was still only as strong as the chosen passphrase. Dictionary attacks remained a threat. KRA, key reinstallation attack. This was the big one, discovered in 2017. KRAC didn't break AES or the PSK directly. Instead, it exploited a subtle flaw in the WPA2 four-way handshake process itself, the cryptographic dance devices due to established session keys.
How did KRA work?
In simple terms, an attacker could trick a client into reinstalling an already-in-use encryption key by manipulating and replaying certain handshake messages. This forced the client to reset associated parameters like the packet number nonce, a counter used to prevent replay attacks, back to 0. Reusing that nonce with the same key is cryptographically catastrophic. It allowed an attacker positioned as a man in the middle to potentially decrypt packets, especially TCP/SYN packets, hijack connections, inject malicious data, like malware, into HTTP sessions, and sniff sensitive information.
Wow. So it wasn't the lock AES that was broken, but the process of exchanging the keys?
Precisely. It affected almost all implementations: Windows, Linux, Android, Mac OS, iOS. It required patches across the board. It was a stark reminder that even strong cryptography can be undermined by protocol flaws. Hashtag WPA3, the latest and greatest, with its own challenges.
And that brings us to WPA3, announced in 2018, partly in response to things like KRACK. This is the latest generation. What new defenses does WPA3 bring? How does it try to finally nail down wireless security?
WPA3 aims to address the known weaknesses in WPA2 and generally harden wireless security for the modern era, especially with the rise of IoT devices. Key enhancements include stronger encryption, optional. While still using AES, WPA3 Enterprise offers an optional, even stronger 192-bit security mode using GCMP 256. WPA3 Personal sticks with AES 128 via GCMP, which is still very strong. Protected Management Frames, PMF. WPA2 had this as optional. WPA3 makes it mandatory. PMF protects crucial management traffic like deauthentication frames from being forged or snooped on, mitigating denial of service and eavesdropping attacks on network control.
Okay, mandatory PMF sounds like a good step against those de-auth attacks. What about the handshake?
This is the biggest change, especially for personal networks. WPA3 Personal replaces the vulnerable PSK handshake with simultaneous authentication of equals, SAE.
SAE, what's that?
SAE, also known as the Dragonfly Key Exchange, is a more advanced password-authenticated key agreement protocol. The crucial benefit: it's resistant to offline dictionary attacks.
How does it manage that?
Unlike the WPA2 PSK handshake, where an attacker could capture the handshake and brute force the password offline, SAE requires an active interaction with the network for each password guess. This makes brute forcing incredibly slow and impractical. It also provides forward secrecy, meaning even if an attacker eventually learns the password, they can't go back and decrypt previously captured traffic.
Wow, resistant to offline attacks and forward secrecy. That sounds like a huge win for home users.
It absolutely is. It means even if you choose a slightly weaker password, it's much harder for an attacker to crack it just by passively listening. WPA3 also introduced other features. Wi-Fi Easy Connect simplifies securely onboarding devices, especially IoT things without screens, using methods like QR codes. Opportunistic Wireless Encryption, OWE, provides individualized encryption for open public Wi-Fi hotspots without needing a password. Each user gets a unique encrypted session, preventing casual eavesdropping. Think of it as encrypted open networks.
OWE for public Wi-Fi sounds great too, so WPA3 seems to fix a lot. Any downsides or new problems?
Well, progress always comes with challenges. Adoption is slow, requires new hardware support on both riders and client devices. It's taking time for WPA3 to become widespread. Many networks still run in WPA2, WPA3 transition mode for compatibility. Transition mode weakness. That transition mode itself can be a vulnerability. An attacker can try to force devices to downgrade to the weaker WPA2 protocol, Dragonblood vulnerabilities. Researchers found flaws in some aspects of WPA3, particularly targeting the SAE Dragonfly handshake. These include potential downgrade attacks, forcing fallback to WPA2, and side-channel attacks, like timing or cache attacks, that could leak information about the password during the handshake in some implementations.
So even SAE isn't perfectly immune.
No cryptographic protocol is perfect, especially in its implementation. These attacks are generally complex, but they show the arms race continues. WPA3 is significantly more secure than WPA2, especially WPA3 Personal with SAE, but vigilance and patching remain essential. Configuration errors, like still using a weak password, even with SAE, can also undermine it. #, comparison, a snapshot of progress.
Okay, that's a whirlwind tour through encryption history: WEP, WPA, WTA2, WPA3. Can we just quickly recap the key differences?
Yeah.
Like a side-by-side comparison?
Sure, a quick snapshot helps solidify it. Feature WPA, WPAT, WSCA3. Primary algorithm, RC4, TCAS or RC4 based, AES, CCMP, AES, GCMP, 192-bit plus, key length, typical 4104-bit, 120-bit mix per packet, 48-bit varies used with nonce, integrity check, CRC32, weak, Michael, CCMP, strong, GCMP, BIP, GMSU 256, strong. Authentication, pair shared key, PSK, handshake vulnerable, GCMP, handshake vulnerable, SAE, resist offline attacks, forward secrecy, no, yes, with SAE, status broken, do not use deprecated, replace secure, but patch KAA, current standard. That table makes it really clear. The progression towards stronger algorithms, better key handling, robust integrity, and finally tackling those handshake vulnerabilities with SAE in WPA3.
Exactly. The takeaway is clear. Avoid WEP and WPA entirely. Use WPA2 as a minimum, ensuring devices are patched against KRACK. But ideally, move to WPA3, especially WPA3 Personal, for the best protection currently available against common attacks.
All right, we built the foundation, we understand the standards, the authentication, the encryption shield. Now let's put on the black hat, or maybe the ethical hacker's white hat, and think like an attacker. We know the goal is to get access or disrupt things, but what kinds of attacks are wireless networks specifically vulnerable to? It feels like more than just guessing passwords.
Oh, much more. Because the signal is broadcast, it opens up avenues that don't exist in the same way on wired networks. Attackers exploit everything from weak encryption and configuration errors to the very nature of radio waves. We can broadly categorize these threats based on the attacker's goal. Access control attacks. The goal here is simply getting onto the network when you're not supposed to, bypassing the bouncer, essentially. Integrity attacks. Here, the attacker wants to secretly modify the data being sent between legitimate users without being detected, changing the message in transit. Confidentiality attacks. This is the classic eavesdropping, intercepting and reading sensitive information that's supposed to be private, listening in on the conversation. Availability attacks. The aim is disruption, preventing legitimate users from accessing or using the wireless network, cutting the lines, so to speak, often denial of service. Authentication attacks focus specifically on stealing credentials or tricking the system into thinking the attacker is a legitimate user. Impersonation.
Okay, access, integrity, confidentiality, availability, authentication, AICAA. Helps to frame the different motivations. It's not just one type of threat.
Exactly. An attacker might use techniques from several categories in a coordinated attack. #tag deep dive into specific threat examples.
Let's dive into some specific examples within those categories. What are some common real-world attacks people should be aware of?
Okay, let's pick out some key ones. Under access control, a big one is MNI spoofing. Remember, the MC address is like a device's unique serial number. Some networks try to filter access based on allowed MIA addresses, but an attacker can easily change their device's MMAC address to mimic an authorized one, bypassing that filter. It's like putting a fake license plate on your car. Tools like SMAC make this trivial.
So MC filtering isn't really strong security then?
Not on its own, no. Also under access control is exploiting AP misconfiguration, things like leaving default passwords, broadcasting default SSIDs, not enabling strong encryption, basic mistakes that leave the door open.
Right, the basics matter. What about integrity?
For integrity attacks, you have things like data frame injection. Attackers can craft and send forged 802.11 frames to disrupt the network or inject malicious data. There are also bit flipping attacks where captured encrypted frames are subtly modified and the integrity check value recalculated, potentially changing the meaning of the data after decryption.
Modifying data on the fly. Scary. Confidentiality. That's the eavesdropping one.
Yes, confidentiality attacks are common. Eavesdropping itself is easy if the network is unencrypted, like old open networks, or uses broken encryption, like WEP. Tools like Wireshark let anyone capture traffic, but the more sophisticated confidentiality attack is the evil twin AP.
Ah, yes, the evil twin. How does that work again?
An attacker sets up their own rogue access point, but configures it with the exact same SSID as a legitimate nearby network, like Starbucks Wi-Fi or airport free Wi-Fi. Unsuspecting users' devices might automatically connect to the attacker's stronger signal, thinking it's the real deal.
And then the attacker sees everything.
Exactly. They sit in the middle, capturing logins, passwords, credit card details entered on non-HTTPS sites, or redirecting users to phishing pages. It's very effective because it exploits user trust and device behavior. Tools like Wi-Fi Fisher automate this. Related is the Honeypot AP, which is similar but might use a generally appealing name rather than mimicking a specific one just to lure people in.
Okay, evil twins and honeypots for stealing data. What about availability, making things stop working?
Availability attacks often involve denial of service. A common one is the deauthentication attack. Attackers use tools like aircrack-ng to flood specific clients, or all clients, with spoofed deauthenticate management frames, pretending to be the AP. This forces the clients to disconnect, making the network unusable. It's incredibly disruptive.
You're kicking everyone off the network repeatedly. Nasty.
Very. There's also beacon flooding, generating thousands of fake AP beacons to confuse clients, or jamming signal attacks, using radio interference to drown out the legitimate signal entirely. We'll touch on jammers later.
Okay, and finally, authentication attacks. Stealing logins.
Yes, authentication attacks focus on credentials. A major one is PSK cracking. For WPA2 personal networks, attackers capture that four-way handshake and then use dictionary attacks or brute force tools like aircrack-ng, hashcat, offline to guess the pre-shared key. This is why strong, unique passphrases are vital.
Cracking the password from the handshake.
There's also elite cracking for older Cisco networks, trying to recover credentials from lightweight EAP packets. And key reinstallation attacks, KRACK, which we discussed exploiting the WPA2 handshake to potentially decrypt data or hijack sessions without needing the password itself.
That's a scary list. Evil twins, deauth floods, PSK cracking.
Yeah.
It really highlights the different angles attackers can take.
And there are even more advanced ones, like wormhole attacks and sinkhole attacks in mesh networks, where attackers trick routing protocols to intercept traffic, or wireless coexistence attacks that exploit vulnerabilities between Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chips sharing the same hardware. The landscape is complex.
It certainly is. But these attacks don't just happen randomly, right? There's usually a process, a methodology.
Absolutely. Professional attackers, this is the reconnaissance stage. It's all about identifying potential targets and gathering basic info like the network name, SSID, and the AP's address, the SSID. There are two main approaches. Passive footprinting, just listening. Using tools to sniff the airwaves and pick up the beacon frames that APs broadcast, which contain the SSID, unless hidden, BSSID, channel, and supported encryption types. You're not interacting, just observing from a distance.
Like watching traffic go by.
Active footprinting. Sending out signals. Your device sends probe request frames, asking nearby APs to identify themselves. APs will typically respond with probe responses containing their details. This is more direct, but also potentially detectable. Attackers can send probe requests for specific SSIDs if they suspect one exists, or broadcast probes to see who responds.
Actively asking who's there.
Okay.
Attackers use various techniques to find networks, sometimes called War X techniques, war driving.
The classic method. Driving around with a laptop, GPS, and Wi-Fi card in monitor mode, using software to automatically map discovered networks, their locations, and security settings. I've heard of war driving. People map out whole cities.
They do. There's also war walking, same thing on foot, war chalking, an older practice of drawing symbols on sidewalks to indicate open Wi-Fi spots, and even war flying, using drones equipped with Wi-Fi scanner.
War flying. Using drones, huh? Clever.
Yeah, gets you access to signals you couldn't reach otherwise. Tools are key here. Software like Insider, Acrylic Wi-Fi, NetSpot, or Linux tools like Kismet or the aircrack-ng suite itself are used for discovery. Mobile apps like Wi-Fi Analyzer are popular too. An important part of discovery is finding WPS-Enabled APs. Remember WPS, the easy setup button. It has a major PIN vulnerability. Tools like OSH, part of the Reaver package, specifically scan for APs with WPS enabled and report if the PIN mechanism is locked or unlocked, meaning potentially vulnerable to a brute force attack.
Finding those WPS weak spots.
Exactly. And finally, spectrum analysis. Using specialized hardware and software, like an RF Explorer or WiSpy with Channelizer, lets an attacker see the raw radio frequency environment. They can detect hidden networks that don't broadcast beacons normally, identify sources of interference, or measure signal strength more accurately. It's like having RF vision.
Seeing the invisible radio waves. Okay, so discovery gives the attacker a map of the landscape, right? So once an attacker has found a target network, they don't just jump in blindly. Phase 2 is traffic analysis.
Yeah.
They need to understand how that specific network operates, right? What are they looking for, and what tools help them decode that flow of data?
Precisely. This phase is about passive intelligence gathering on the chosen target. Before launching an attack, you want to know what encryption method is being used. WEP, WPA2 PSK, WPA2 Enterprise, WPA3 SAE. This dictates the attack strategy. Are there any obvious vulnerabilities, like weak protocols or misconfigurations? Who are the connected clients? What are their ANSI addresses? Identifying potential victims. Can we recover a hidden SSID by observing client connection attempts? To do this, the attacker needs to capture the actual wireless traffic. Since Wi-Fi operates at layer 2 and the signals are in the air, sniffing is relatively easy if you have the right equipment and setup. The crucial step is putting the wireless card into monitor mode. Not all Wi-Fi cards or drivers support this. Monitor mode allows the card to capture all 802.11 frames on a specific channel, not just frames addressed to its own MSC address.
So you need a compatible Wi-Fi card capable of monitor mode. That's key.
Absolutely critical for most wireless attacks. Chipset compatibility is more important than the brand of the card. Atheros, certain Realtek, and Relink chipsets were traditionally popular for this in the Linux world.
Okay. Card in monitor mode. What tools do they use to capture and analyze?
Wireshark, the undisputed champion of network protocol analysis. It can capture raw 802.11 frames when used with a card in monitor mode and dissect them, showing all the headers, data payloads, if unencrypted, management frames, everything. You can filter traffic, follow conversations, analyze patterns. It's indispensable.
Wireshark for deep packet inspection.
Arrow dumping, part of aircrack-ng suite. This is specifically designed for capturing 802.11 traffic for analysis and cracking. It displays nearby APs, connected clients, captures IVs for WEBP cracking, and handshakes for WPA to WPA3 cracking, saving everything to a .cat file. Kismet. Another powerful wireless sniffer, detector, and intrusion detection system. Good at finding hidden networks and mapping relationships. Combu for Wi-Fi, a commercial Windows tool that's also very capable for capturing, decoding, and analyzing wireless traffic. By analyzing the captured traffic, the attacker gets a detailed blueprint of the network's operation, identifies the security protocols in use, finds potential victims, and plans the next phase, launching the actual attacks.
Okay, discovery and analysis are done. The attacker has chosen their target and understands its weaknesses. Now it's time for phase 3, launching attacks. Many tools exist, but one name keeps coming up. The aircrack-ng suite. It seems like the Swiss Army knife for wireless hacking. What exactly is it, and what are its main components?
That's a great analogy. Aircrack-ng is the essential toolkit for 802.11 network assessment and hacking, especially on Linux platforms like Kali. It's not just one tool, but a collection of command line utilities, each designed for a specific task in the wireless hacking process. Let's break down the key players. Airmoning, used to switch your wireless card into and out of monitor mode, the first step for most attacks.
Putting the card in listen inject mode. Got it.
Arrow dumping. We mentioned this for analysis. It captures packets, detects APs and clients, collects IVs for WAP, and captures handshakes for WPA, PA2, WP3. It's your eyes and ears. Airplaying. This is the main packet injection tool. It's used for various active attacks like the deauthentication attack, fake authentication, ARP replay attacks for WEP cracking, and interacting with APs. This is often the attack part of the suite.
Airplaying for sending the malicious packets. Okay.
Aircrack-ng. This is the cracking tool itself. It takes the captured IVs for WEI or the captured handshake and password list for WPP2, WPA3, PSK, and attempts to recover the key or passphrase. Airbasing allows you to create a soft access point useful for setting up evil twin or man-in-the-middle attacks and capturing client handshakes.
So airbase for creating fake APs.
There are others too, like air-to-capting for decrypting captured traffic once you have the key, AirLim for managing password lists efficiently, and AirTem for creating virtual tunnel interfaces.
Wow, it really is a comprehensive suite. Covers discovery, sniffing, attacking, cracking, and utility functions. Hashtag attacks with air crashing and other tools. All right, let's see these tools in action. How would an attacker use aircrack-ng or similar tools to perform some of those specific attacks we discussed earlier? Let's start with hidden SSIDs. People hide them thinking it's safer.
Right, the security through obscurity myth. Hiding the SSID just removes it from the beacon frame, but clients still need to know it to connect, and they send probe requests containing the SSID. An attacker can easily reveal hidden SSIDs. Passive method. Just run arrow dumping on the correct channel. When a legitimate client connects or sends a probe request for the hidden network, arrow dumping will see that frame containing the SSID and display it. Active method. Use Airplaying's deauthentication attack to kick a connected client off the hidden network. The client will immediately try to reconnect, sending probe requests that reveal the SSID, which arrow dumping will capture. Tools like MDK3 can also run brute force probes trying common SSIDs until the AP responds. Hiding the SSID offers virtually no real protection.
Okay, so hidden SSIDs are easily revealed. What about denial of service, making the network unusable?
The deauthentication attack is the classic Wi-Fi DOS. It's brutally effective. Using Airplaying 0, that's -0, an attacker can send a flood of spoofed deauthentication frames that can target a specific client, -C client, MAC, or broadcast it to disconnect all clients, -C, FFF, from a specific AP, MEK, and C. The clients receive these frames, think they're coming from the legitimate AP, and disconnect. The attacker keeps flooding, preventing anyone from maintaining a stable connection. It effectively shuts down the network for those users.
Simple, effective, and disruptive. Okay, what about the man-in-the-middle attack in wireless? How is that set up?
Wireless MITM is often combined with an evil twin or rogue AP. The general steps are: 1. Identify victim and AP. Use arrow dumping to find the MSE addresses of the target client and the legitimate AP they're connected to, plus the channel and SSID. 2. Deauthenticate victim. Use airplaying to kick the victim off the legitimate AP. 3. Set up rogue AP. Use a tool like airbasing or hostapt on the attacker's machine with a second Wi-Fi card or virtual interface to create a fake AP with the same SSID and BSSID and NAS address as the legitimate one, often on a different channel initially. 4. Lure victim. When the victim's device tries to reconnect, it might connect to the attacker's stronger or quicker responding fake AP. 5. Relay traffic. The attacker's machine then connects to the real AP itself and relays the victim's traffic back and forth. Now the attacker is sitting invisibly in the middle, able to sniff, modify, or redirect all the victim's traffic. Tools like EtherCap or BetterCap can automate parts of this, especially the traffic manipulation once the MITM is established.
Sitting in the middle, controlling the traffic flow. Very powerful. And MAN spoofing, changing the device address.
Yeah, MC spoofing is often a prerequisite for other attacks or used to bypass simple filters, bypassing MC filters. If a network only allows specific MC addresses, an attacker uses arrow dumping to see which clients are connected, their MCs are allowed, then uses tools Machanger on Linux, Technetium MC address changer on Windows to change their own card's MC address to match one of the allowed ones. Now they look legitimate.
Just copying an allowed address.
Impersonating AP. Attackers might spoof the MC address of the legitimate AP when creating an evil twin to make it look even more authentic to client devices. On Linux, it's as simple as if config woln0 down, then Machanger decim nux0, then if config woln0 up. Very easy to do.
Okay. What about ARP poisoning in a wireless context? That's usually a wired attack.
It works wirelessly too, especially within the same broadcast domain, subnet. ARP links IP addresses, layer 3, to MAC addresses, layer 2. It has no built-in security or verification. An attacker connected to the same wireless network can send forged ARP replies to a victim, or the gateway router, They might tell the victor's machine, hey, the router's IP address, for example, 192.168.1.1, is now at my MMASI address. And they tell the router, hey, the victim's IP address is at my MMASI address.
So tricking both ends into sending traffic to the attacker.
Exactly. The victim sends internet traffic to the attacker. The router sends traffic intended for the victim to the attacker. The attacker just forwards it along, but sniffs or modifies it in the process. EtherCap is the classic tool for ARP poisoning. It can scan the network, identify hosts, let you select targets, victim and router, and launch the poisoning attack. If traffic isn't encrypted end-to-end, like with HTTPS, EtherCap can often sniff credentials right out of the air.
ARP poisoning via Wi-Fi using EtherCap, got it, and rogue APs. We touched on them, but how are they typically deployed?
Rogue APs are unauthorized access points plugged into the wired network, creating a backdoor. Attackers might physically sneak one in, they can be tiny disguised devices, and plug it into an unused Ethernet port under a desk or in a conference room. Or sometimes an employee sets one up innocently for convenience, unaware of the security risk. The goal for an attacker is to make it stealthy. Choose a hidden location. Disable SOSID broadcast. Maybe configure it to only allow connections from the attacker's MIC address. Place it behind the corporate firewall if possible, so internal connections are easier. The Man-By toolkit was a popular tool for creating sophisticated rogue APs for penetration testing, capable of various MITM tricks and bypassing things like HSTS. Setting one up involves configuring files like hostd-mana.conf and running scripts to bridge the wireless interface to the wired network.
Creating that hidden backdoor. And the evil twin we discussed earlier is a specific type of rogue AP, just mimicking a legitimate one, right?
Precisely. An evil twin focuses on impersonation, using the same SSID, and sometimes BSSID, as a trusted network to lure users. A generic rogue AP might just offer an open connection into the target network without impersonating anything specific. Setting up a fake, free, public Wi-Fi hotspot using Windows Internet Connection Sharing or macOS Internet Sharing, and a simple AP is a common evil twin tactic in public spaces.
Okay. Now, KRACK, the key reinstallation attack, how does that actually work in practice? Do attackers have tools for it?
KADT exploits the four-way handshake in WPA 2. The core idea is to force the client, or sometimes the AP, to reinstall an already used session key, the PTK or GTK, and reset the associated nonce counter. An attacker needs to be in a man-in-the-middle position during the handshake. They intercept handshake message 3 from AP to client, block it from reaching the client initially, and wait for the AP to retransmit it. They then allow the original message 3 through, let the client install the key, and then forward this transmitted message 3 later. The client, following the protocol rules incorrectly in vulnerable implementations, might reinstall the same key but reset the nonce. Reusing nonces breaks the confidentiality of the encryption, AES-CCMP or TKPEC. While complex proof-of-concept scripts exist, the primary defense was patching the client in AP software, which most vendors did quickly after its disclosure.
So KRAC was about manipulating the handshake timing to force key reuse. Nasty. What about jamming? Physically blocking the signal?
Yes, jamming signal attacks are purely about denial of service through radio frequency interference. Attackers use devices specifically designed to transmit powerful noise or garbage signals on the target Wi-Fi frequencies, 2.4 GHz or 5 GHz. Wi-Fi devices use CEHv13. They listen before transmitting to avoid collisions. If the channel is constantly busy with the jammer's noise, legitimate devices will indefinitely defer their transmissions. The network becomes unusable. These jammers range from small handheld devices to more powerful units. They are illegal to operate in most places, but they exist. Examples mentioned in study guides include PCB4510, CPB2920, etc., with varying ranges and frequencies they can jam.
It's the legal but effective DOS using raw RF power.
Correct. And briefly, that alter attack against mobile networks. That targeted LTE's use of AES counter mode, which provides confidentiality but not integrity protection on its own. An attacker sets up a fake cell tower, femtocell or software-defined radio, acting as a MITM. Because there's no integrity check at the radio layer, they can potentially flip specific bits in the encrypted data stream. By carefully manipulating DNS requests, they could redirect users to malicious websites, even if the connection seems secure. It operates at layer 2, below the typical TLS SSL protection.
Wow, manipulating encrypted LTE traffic at layer 2, that's sophisticated. And hijacking.
Hijacking is clever. It retrieves Wi-Fi credentials without cracking. It relies on a chain of conditions. Client auto-reconnects to open networks, uses Chromium browser, browser-saved router admin credentials. Router admin page is HTTP, not HTTPS. The attack, deauth victim, lure to attacker's karma rogue APS, inject malicious URL pointing to router's local admin page, browser autofill save credentials on the local page, even though served by attacker, attacker script captures credentials, attacker logs into router, extracts WPA2 PSK. Very sneaky.
Exploiting browser credential autofill over an insecure connection. Wow. And finally, RFID cloning.
Right. Moving beyond Wi-Fi briefly, RFID tags in access cards, payment systems inventory, transmit an ID wirelessly. RFID cloning involves using a reader-writer tool like Proxmark 3, Flipper 0, iCopyX to capture the data from a legitimate tag and write it onto a blank compatible tag. Now the attacker has a duplicate card or tag that functions identically to the original, a physical access or payment system bypass.
So many ways to attack wireless systems. It really underscores the need for strong defenses, especially robust encryption. Which brings us to breaking that encryption. We've seen attacks that bypass or trick the system. But what about a direct assault on the encryption itself, specifically the widely used WPA and WPA2? You mentioned PSK cracking earlier. Is it really feasible to crack those strong AES keys?
It's a common misconception. You're not usually cracking the AES session keys directly. Those change frequently. What you can crack for WPA2 personal networks is the pre-shared key, PSK, the passphrase that's used to generate those session keys during the handshake. WPA2 is much harder to crack than WEP, but definitely possible if the PSK is weak. The attack relies on capturing the four-way handshake that occurs when a client connects to the AP.
That handshake again. Why is it so important?
Because during that handshake, the client and AP exchange information derived from the PSK to prove they both know it without sending the PSK itself in the clear. They generate and exchange cryptographic nonces and calculate message integrity codes based on the shared PSK. An attacker captures these four handshake messages. Crucially, the captured handshake contains enough information, nonces, MSE addresses, MICs, that the attacker can then try guessing the PSK offline.
Offline, meaning they don't need to interact with the live network anymore.
Exactly. They take the captured handshake file, .cap file, and a word list, a file containing thousands or millions of potential passwords, and use a cracking tool. The tool takes a password from the word list, mathematically derives what the handshake messages should have looked like if that password were correct, and compares it to the captured handshake. If they match, bingo, they've found the PSK.
So it's a brute force or dictionary attack against the captured handshake.
Precisely. This is why the strength of your WPA2 passphrase is everything. If it's short, common, or dictionary-based, password 12345678 QWERTY, it can potentially be cracked relatively quickly, maybe hours or days with powerful hardware, like GPUs. If it's long, complex, and unique, it could take years, centuries, or longer, making it practically uncrackable by brute force.
And attackers often use that deauthentication attack first to force a client to reconnect, just to make sure they capture that crucial handshake.
Yes, that's a very common technique. Kick a client off, wait for them to auto-reconnect, capture the handshake, then go offline to crack it. Hashtag cracking WPA2 using aircrack-ng.
Okay, let's make it concrete. Walk me through cracking a WPA2 PSK using aircrack-ng step by step. Assume we have a compatible card and a good word list.
Sure. Here's the typical workflow on a Linux system like Kali. 1. Start monitor mode. Open a terminal and type sudo airmon start wallin 0. Replace colon 0 with your wireless interface name. This creates a monitor interface, often named wallin 0mon.
Step 1. Monitor mode on.
2. Find the target. Run sudo aerodumple willinizorman to see all nearby networks. Identify your target's BSS ID, MESE address, channel CH, and ESID network name. Note the MAC address of at least one connected client under station. Let's say the AP's BSS ID is A, EBCC, DD, EEA, it's on channel 6, and a client 11.22.33.4455.66 is connected.
Step 2. Identify AP and client MSC's channel.
Capture handshake. Now specifically target that AP. Run sudo aerodumping bsid AABBCE FFC6 AWW capture as soon as Zellman. This tells aerodumping to listen only on channel 6, only for traffic related to that AP, and save captured packets of files starting with capture.
Step 3. Start capturing packets for the target APs.
Force reauthentication, optional but recommended. Open a second terminal window, use airplaying to deauthenticate the client. Sudo airplaying 05 FNA FFSC 11.22.33.44.55.66 route. Step 4. Sourcing it to reconnect.
Step 4. Deauth the client to trigger a new handshake.
5. Wait for handshake capture. Watch the top right corner of the first aerodumping window. When it successfully captures the four-way handshake between the AP and the reconnecting client, it will display WPA handshake, AABBC, CDEEFF. You can then stop the capture, Ctrl+C in the arrow dumping window, and the airplaying attack.
Step 5. Wait for WPA handshake message. Got it.
6. Crack offline. Now use aircrack itself. You need a word list file. AG USR share word lists rocku.txt. The command is aircrack-ng -w path-to-your-wordlist.txt capture-01.cap. The capture file might have a number like -01. Aircrack-ng will now read the handshake from the .cap file and try every password in your word list. If the correct PSK is in the list, it will eventually display keyfound.password in it.
Step 6. Run aircracking with a word list against the capture file. Simple conceptually, but success depends entirely on that word list and the PSK strength.
Exactly. If the password isn't in your list, it won't find it. Hashtag WPA brute forcing using Fern Wi-Fi cracker.
Are there more user-friendly tools for this? Aircracking is powerful, but command line only.
Yes, for those who prefer a graphical interface, Fern Wi-Fi cracker is a popular Python-based option on Linux. It essentially provides a GUI wrapper around the aircrack-ng suite and other tools. The process is similar, but guided through menus. 1. Launch Fern, pseudo Fern Wi-Fi cracker. 2. Select your wireless interface and enable monitor mode via a button. Click. 3. Click Scan for APs. It will populate a list of networks showing encryption types, WEP, WPA22. 4. Select your target WPA-2 network from the list. 5. Click the WPA attack button. 6. Fern will automatically start arrow dumping to capture and often offer options to launch a deauthentication attack to get the handshake faster. 7. Once it detects the handshake, it prompts you to select a word list file. 8. You choose your word list, like rocky.txt, and click Run Attack. 9. Fern runs aircrack-ng in the background and will display the key if it's found in the word list.
Okay, Fern provides a graphical front end for the same underlying process. Makes it more accessible for some users. Are there other cracking tools worth knowing?
Yes, Hashcat is extremely popular, especially for serious cracking efforts. It's highly optimized for using GPUs, graphics cards, to accelerate the cracking process massively compared to CPU-only cracking like aircrack-ng. You'd first convert the .cap file to Hashcat's format, .hgcapx, using HCXP capping tool, and then run Hashcat. Other tools like Wi-Fi automate the entire process, discovery, capture, cracking, for multiple networks. Hashtag WPA3, encryption, cracking, new defenses, new attacks.
Now, what about WPA3? Its SAE handshake is designed to resist these offline dictionary attacks. So is WPA3 uncrackable? Or did attackers find ways around that too, like those Dragon Blood vulnerabilities?
WPA3 SAE is a huge step up against traditional offline PSK cracking. You generally can't just capture the SAE handshake and brute force it offline like you can with WPA2 PSK. However, it's not completely immune. The Dragon Blood attacks highlighted several potential weaknesses. Downgrade attacks. As we mentioned, if a network runs in WPA to WPA3 transition mode, an attacker might force a client to connect using the weaker WPA2 protocol, then attack WPA2 normally. The attack targets the transition mechanism itself,
Forcing it back to the weaker standard.
Side channel attacks on SAE. These are more subtle. They don't break the cryptography directly, but exploit information leaked during the SAE handshake implementation. Timing attacks might measure the precise time the router IP takes to process certain parts of the handshake for different password guesses, potentially leaking information that helps narrow down the possibilities. Cache attacks might observe how the processor's memory cache is used during the handshake, again potentially leaking password information. These side-channel attacks are complex, often implementation-specific, and may not allow full password recovery, but could significantly reduce the search space for an online brute force attempt. Password partitioning attacks related to SAE groups. Some Dragon Blood attacks targeted how SAE handles different cryptographic groups, potentially allowing an attacker to test password guesses more efficiently against specific groups.
So offline cracking is mostly stopped by SAE, but downgrade attacks and subtle side channel leaks are the new frontiers for WPA3 attacks.
Largely, yes. And importantly, even with SAE, if the password itself is extremely weak, like 12345678, an attacker might still be able to guess it through online brute forcing, although SAE makes this much slower than WPA2 offline cracking.
Can tools like aircrack-ng or Hashcat attack WPA3 handshakes at all?
Yes, they can be used, but primarily for the side channel or downgrade scenarios, or if a specific implementation vulnerability is found. For example, you might capture a WPA3 SAE handshake using arrow dumping. Then you could potentially use Hashcat with mode Mageman 22000 for WPA3, along with specialized techniques or potential vulnerabilities found via side channel analysis to try and recover the password. It's not the straightforward offline dictionary attack of WPA2, but the tools are adapted for the new protocol. Capturing the handshake still involves airmaning, arrow dumping, and potentially airplaying to force it. Converting the capture for Hashcat uses HGX PCAPing tool. Hashtag tags, hashtag cracking WPS using Reaver.
Okay, one last cracking method. What about WPS, that Wi-Fi protected setup NMA? You mentioned it was vulnerable earlier. How do attackers crack that?
WPS. Designed for ease of use, but a security nightmare. The vulnerability lies in how the 8-digit PIN is validated. Instead of checking all 8 digits at once, 100 million possibilities, most implementations check the first 4 digits separately from the last 4 digits, and the 8th digit is often just a checksum of the first 7.
Wait, checking 4 digits then the next 3?
Exactly. So an attacker only needs to brute force the first 4 digits, 10,000 possibilities, and the next 3 digits, 1,000 possibilities. That's a maximum of only 11,000 guesses instead of 100 million.
11,000 guesses. That's massively less. Totally brute forceable.
Totally. The tool Reaver was specifically designed to exploit this. The steps are: 1. Use AirMon to put the card in monitor mode. 2. Use Wash Inland and Miramon to scan for nearby ATs that have WPS enabled and unlocked. It will list their BSSID, channel, and WPS status. 3. If you find a vulnerable target, WPS unlocked, launch Reaver against it. Reaver Inland Miramon Bay B, target BSSID-EOC channel-VV-K1. Reaver will then methodically try PIN combinations, focusing on the first half, then the second. If successful, it will recover the full 8-digit PIN. And here's the kicker. Once it has the PIN, it can often automatically retrieve the actual WPA2 passphrase from the router as well.
Wow. Cracking the simple PAN gives you the complex WPA password. That's a huge flaw.
Huge. Many routers implemented lockup mechanisms after too many failed PN attempts, but Reaver has ways to sometimes bypass those. The best defense against this is to simply disable WPS entirely in your router's settings. It's often enabled by default.
Disable WPS. Got it. Another critical security step. Hashtag tag outro. Okay, wow. Let's try and catch our breath here. We have covered an incredible amount of ground today. We started with the very basics, those invisible electromagnetic waves making Wi-Fi possible. We walked through the history of 802.1m standards, the evolution of encryption from the broken WEP to the much stronger but still imperfect WPA3. We looked through an attacker's eyes at the huge range of threats, evil twins, deauth attacks, MBAC spoofing, KRACK, and then we dove into the actual methodology, the tools like aircrack-ng and Reaver, and the techniques used to discover, analyze, attack, and crack wireless networks. It's a lot.
It really is. We've touched on the core concepts, the strengths, and especially the weaknesses of the different security layers, the diverse threats, and the step-by-step process attackers often follow. From discovery with arrow dumping to cracking with aircrack-ng or Hashcat, or exploiting WPS with Reaver.
And that evolution story is key, isn't it? WP's failure, WPA as a patch, WPA2 as the long-standing workhorse eventually undermined by KRAC, and now WPA3 fighting the latest battles with SAE, but still facing challenges like dragon blood and downgrade risks. It's this constant cybersecurity cat-and-mouse game played out over the airwaves.
Absolutely. And the practical takeaway for everyone listening is crucial. Wireless convenience always has a security trade-off. Understanding things like SSIDs are just names, not security. Knowing the difference between PSK and enterprise authentication, appreciating why WPA3's SAE is better than WPA2's PSK against offline attacks, this isn't just for techies or hackers, it's vital for anyone using Wi-Fi.
Right. You, our listener, you've been through this deep dive with us. You've seen the whole life cycle from how a signal gets shaped by an antenna to how it can be intercepted by an evil twin or cracked with a word list. Hopefully you feel better equipped now. The next time you connect to that coffee shop Wi-Fi or even check your home router settings, maybe you'll think about beacon frames, MSE addresses, WPS status, and the strength of your passphrase.
And it raises a provocative question, doesn't it? Given that even the latest standard, WPA3, isn't theoretically perfect and faces implementation vulnerabilities and side-channel attacks. What does that say about the future? Is truly unbreakable wireless security even possible when you're fundamentally broadcasting information? Or is the best we can hope for this constant cycle of improvement, patching, and relying on multiple layers of defense, including user awareness?
That's the question to ponder. Is perfect wireless security a myth? What steps will you take now, knowing what you know, to make your own corner of the wireless world just a little bit safer? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into hacking wireless networks. Understanding the risks, understanding the vulnerabilities, that's always the first step to building stronger defenses. Stay curious, stay informed, and above all, stay secure.